Did he at one point start crying and state to you, "It hurts, bro, the shit fucking hurts"?
Yes, he did.
Quote, "Not trying to look like no bitch." Somehow, Ms. Wright is the only one facing criminal charges from this incident. Ms. Bobian was arrested. She is not facing any charges.
It's just this sort of seedy love triangle all around.
I'll set this up for you because it may be confusing if I don't. Henderson and Bobian broke up. Henderson took a drunk Bobian to his barbershop to sleep it off and returned home to his current love interest, Ms. Wright. Bobian woke angry that Henderson left her there, blew up his phone, drove over to his place, and forced her way into his house. Wright grabbed a knife and chased her outside, swinging it at her. Bobian fled back to the barbershop, where Henderson followed her. There, police say, Bobian stabbed Henderson. The thing is, Henderson refuses to name Bobian as his assailant, despite the overwhelming evidence otherwise. Bobian isn't charged. Contrast that with Wright, who faces attempted murder charges for swinging a knife at the home invader. Let's foremost.
And then, as we discussed, did you kind of confront or show Ms. Bobian this surveillance video that depicted a portion of this altercation outside the home?
Yes.
Okay. And did Ms. Bobian's story change to some degree at that point after seeing that video?
It did.
Okay. How did Ms. Bobian's story change after she saw that video?
She said, I believe she said she pushed Mr. Henderson. He picked her up, brought her outside, threw her onto the car. I believe it was at that point she saw the knife that was held by Miss Wright.
Okay. So after watching the video, did Miss Bobian acknowledge to you herself having physical contact with Mr. Henderson outside the home on the way out?
I think there was a second portion where I showed her the video, and that's when she acknowledged. I think I specifically pointed out to her that she had struck Mr. Henderson outside the apartment.
Okay.
Or pushed. I can't remember.
Okay. And so she acknowledged that after seeing that surveillance video?
Yes.
Okay. Did you confront Ms. Bobian about how Mr. Henderson had gotten a stab wound on his neck?
Yes.
Did she acknowledge to you that she, Ms. Bobian, had caused that injury to Mr. Henderson's neck?
From what I recall, she didn't specifically state that she did it. She said that she had the bottle in her hand and was making, essentially, she says it wasn't her intention if she did it. I don't believe she specifically said or admitted to actually being the one who did cut his neck.
Okay. Did she say that she had a bottle or a broken bottle in her hand?
Yes.
And that the bottle at some point had cut Mr. Henderson's neck?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then did she claim to you that it somehow wasn't intentional that she had cut Mr. Henderson in the neck?
That's how I perceived what we spoke of, that it wasn't, she didn't have the intention of cutting his neck.
Okay. Did she make the statement to you, "I wasn't intentionally, like, and make a gesture of sticking her arm out repeatedly"?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, did Ms. Bobian tell you at any point that anyone else had caused that injury to Mr. Henderson's neck?
No.
Okay.
You had an opportunity to refresh your recollection watching the surveillance. Is this the same video that you showed Ms. Bobian while you were interviewing her?
Yes. Specifically, it was the point from when, like right at the beginning of the video I saw was where you saw Miss Bobian, it looked like trying to strike Mr. Henderson, I think is where the beginning of the one, it's the same video, just that portion is where it started.
At some point, both Mr. Henderson and the defendant are essentially, for lack of a better word, ganging up on Ms. Bobian at this point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see the knife in the video while you were reviewing it today and while you were reviewing it with Ms. Bobian?
Yes.
Okay. What was the defendant doing with the knife?
Raised, at one point, like raised kind of in her right hand, and it looked like moving towards the direction of Ms. Bobian.
Did she appear to swing it at her?
That's what I observed.
Okay. And Ms. Bobian had indicated that she sort of recognized this knife.
Yes.
And when she saw the knife, they were still inside the house?
So she initially said, prior to seeing the video, she said they were inside the house when she saw the knife. Upon seeing the video or me discussing it with her, It was outside that she saw the knife.
Those are my questions, Your Honor.
Redirect. A few more brief questions for you. I think the prosecutor asked you if it's normal for a witness you're speaking to remember different things at different times. Is that kind of what you were asked?
Yes.
Is it also normal for a suspect you're questioning to lie to you about certain parts of
Objection argumentative.
Overruled? Is it also normal for you for a suspect you're questioning to not be truthful to a police officer?
It happens. I can't say normal or not normal. It happens.
You may be seen it happen once or twice before in your experience as a detective.
Yes.
Was Ms. Bobian the suspect you were questioning?
She could have or could not have been at that point based on what I knew at that time. I knew it was possible that there could have been something she had done.
And she was arrested after this incident, right?
She was.
Okay. So I want to ask you some questions about November 22nd of 2025, okay?
Okay.
Were you on call that day?
I was.
All right. And did you end up being assigned to an investigation involving people named William Henderson, Madison Wright, and Anai Bobian?
Yes.
What were your first steps after being assigned as lead detective here?
Contacting William at the hospital.
Okay. And is that William Henderson?
Correct.
Do you know why Mr. Henderson had been brought to the hospital?
He suffered a laceration to his neck.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were you able to observe any injuries on Mr. Henderson when you made contact with him at the hospital?
Yes, he had a laceration to his neck and an injury on the inside of his mouth.
Okay. Are those photographs of Mr. Henderson?
Yes,
And did you take these photos?
I did take those photos.
Do they depict the injuries you just talked about to the inside of his mouth and then to his neck?
Yes,
Okay. Are they fair and accurate depictions of those injuries?
yes.
I'd move to admit defense M&N at this point. With respect to the injury to Mr. Henderson's mouth, did he mention, at least to a patrol officer there, how he had sustained that injury?
Yes, he said something to the effect of getting punched in the mouth.
What specific question was Mr. Henderson not willing to answer?
How he has sustained the injury.
Okay. And by the injury, do you mean the
The injury
cut
to his neck and who caused the injury.
Okay. And I'm assuming that was a particular focus of yours in investigating this case.
Yes.
Did Mr. Henderson describe how Ms. Bobian arrived at his apartment?
Yeah, she just showed up at his apartment after he had left her at his barbershop to sleep.
Okay. So he didn't tell you he'd invited her over there or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay. Did Mr. Henderson tell you that he was concerned about Ms. Bobian causing damage to his barbershop?
He did, yes.
Okay. Did he tell you what, if anything, she had said that made him worried about that?
That she was going to, quote, fuck his shit up.
Okay. And he believed that to mean she was going to cause damage to his barbershop.
Correct.
So was Mr. Henderson ever willing to state to you directly that Ms. Bobian had cut him in the neck?
No.
Okay. And I'm assuming you asked him that at least once or twice.
Yes.
All right. Did he at one point start crying and state to you, "It hurts, bro, the shit fucking hurts"?
Yes, he did.
Did he state to you at one point that he was, quote, not trying to look like no bitch?
He did.
Okay. In your experience as a detective, have you ever encountered victims of domestic violence who are not willing to give full statements about an incident?
Absolutely.
Is that something that's fairly common in your experience?
Yes.
Okay. Or to downplay any injuries that they have. Is that something you've experienced as well?
Yes.
Okay. To cover the fact Mr. Henderson was not arrested, was Ms. Bobian arrested in this case?
She was.
What charges was Ms. Bobian arrested for?
Attempted first-degree murder.
Okay. Would you be able to give us a description that you documented of your observations of that surveillance video, the actions of the different parties involved?
Sure. It was outside Mr. Henderson's apartment. First time you see anybody on the video, Miss Bobian is seen slapping Mr. Henderson in the face. Mr. Henderson pushes her away, slamming her onto the hood of her own vehicle. Then you see Miss Wright behind Mr. Henderson with a knife in her hand. There's a bunch of yelling and screaming. Somebody is saying, "I'll kill you." I don't know who said that, but and then Miss Bobian gets in her vehicle, leaves, and then Mr. Henderson gets in his vehicle and leaves.
Okay. Were you also able to see Ms. Bobian reaching for Ms. Wright and grabbing her hair in that video?
I did, yes.
Okay.
At some point, did you see Mr. Henderson trying to separate Ms. Bobian and the defendant?
Yes.
Was there any statements that you heard?
No, baby, no. Something along those lines. Mr. Henderson is, as he's separating the two of them.
Was he referring to the knife when he made those statements?
Yes, he started saying that as soon as I saw that.
Hold on.
Just a second. Sustained.
Did you, when you viewed the video, did you view the knife?
Yes, you can see the knife in the video.
Okay. And you saw Mr. Henderson and the defendant?
Yes.
The statement, no baby, no. Did you hear when that happened in relation to all this?
As Miss Wright and Miss Bobian are grabbing at each other and Miss Wright is waving a knife around.
Okay. And did you see, were you able to see clearly what the defendant was doing with the knife?
Not clearly after she started waving it and trying to stab at Miss Bobian. I didn't see where the knife went after that.
So, Judge, I obviously want to get to the legal issue for the court to decide here, that being whether my client is entitled to immunity under the Make My Day law. I do want to emphasize kind of the broader context of the case that we're here for. And that is a case where Ms. Bobian showed up uninvited to Mr. Henderson's home, started causing a scene there, then went over to Mr. Henderson's barbershop, again uninvited, essentially in a jealous rage, ends up stabbing him in the neck to the point where he has to go to the hospital. And somehow Ms. Wright is the only one facing criminal charges from this incident. We heard, of course, that Ms. Bobian was arrested. She is not facing any charges, probably in large part because of Mr. Henderson's reluctance to give a statement, as the court was able to observe directly when defense called him as a witness, still very reluctant to state directly that someone that he still cares about, his ex-girlfriend, actually caused the significant injury to him. So that is the broader context of the case that we're here for. Again, a situation in which somehow out of this incident, Ms. Wright is the only one facing criminal charges and serious criminal charges. So I think that is important to consider here. But the defense has to show an unlawful entry into the home by Ms. Bobian. Defense has to show the occupant, that being Ms. Wright's, reasonable belief that the person entering unlawfully has committed, is committing, or intends to commit a crime. And then lastly, the occupant, again, Ms. Wright's, reasonable belief that the person entering unlawfully might use physical force against an occupant. So that's what the defense has to show. And the prosecution emphasize kind of before we started this hearing that there are some conflicts in the three statements that we've heard about in this case, that being the testimony of Mr. Henderson, and then we also heard detectives testify to Ms. Wright's statement and detectives testify to Ms. Bobian's statement. And there are some conflicts in there as to different points of this story, but really all three of those statements make out the elements the defense has to show here, including Ms. Bobian's statement. Ms. Bobian's statement, which we just heard about as well through Detective Asim, also establishes those elements. And obviously, Ms. Bobian is trying to minimize her culpability here. She is being questioned by detectives. She's giving this statement to police. She wants to minimize her involvement, but even she acknowledges in her statement that no one invited her to this home. She obviously has a previous relationship with Mr. Henderson. She's been in the home previously, but she didn't have a key. She definitely was not invited. Her statement is certainly that she was frustrated with Mr. Henderson. So she shows up at the home, and even she acknowledges being the one to start the physical altercation by pushing Mr. Henderson in the face. She, makes this claim that somehow Ms. Wright from inside the home is making a statement about beating her ass, which doesn't really make sense because Ms. Wright does not know she's going to show up at the home. But even setting that aside, Ms. Bobian acknowledges in her statement, she starts the physical altercation, pushing Mr. Henderson in the face, then ends up inside the home, even though no one invited her in there. So even if we just had her statement, that would be enough to make out this element of an unlawful entry into the home.
The defendant were charged with third-degree assault, or even harassment, or both. There might very well be an argument under the Make My Day statute, but she's not charged with that. She's charged with what happened outside in the parking lot. She's charged with attempt first-degree assault with a deadly weapon for using the knife, and the court saw the video. Granted, it was a couple weeks ago, but it's in evidence. We're talking about two different transactions here, I think, because the incident in the house is ended. She's out at the car, and there is a second sort of essentially, and a second second confrontation between the parties outside the house by the car. And I simply don't think that the protection would extend that far. She's charged with what she did outside. I think what's being argued by talking about the barbershop and really an unrelated incident where Mr. Henderson wouldn't even cooperate with having Ms. Bobian charged, that's really trying to justify the behavior. And there's no evidence that the defendant was ever at the barbershop. I don't think it's been established, even by the preponderance of the evidence in this case, that would warrant simply allowing the defendant's conduct that happens in the parking lot, and that's what she's charged with, allowing that conduct to give her a grant of immunity. I just don't think that's what the statute envisioned.
I heard direct testimony from Mr. Henderson, and then I heard a lot of hearsay from some detectives, and Mr. Henderson I found to be generally credible. And he credibly described how Ms. Bobian had been blowing up his phone, demanding to know where he was. And I won't get into the whole story about how Mr. Henderson ended up placing her in his barbershop so she could sleep off her drunkenness. But he and Miss Wright, the defendant, go back to his dwelling, where I'll find that they were they were in their residence. I found credible the testimony that Ms. Bobian showed up. She was beating on the door. Ms. Bobian heard that Ms. Wright was inside and starts cursing through the door at Ms. Wright. I would note that the evidence from what happens later in the evening back at the barbershop where Ms. Bobian slices the neck of Mr. Henderson does give a strong indication of her frame of mind when she was at the door earlier, and her behavior later is consistent with what she was doing on the scene that we're talking about here, which is banging on the door, being angry. The door gets opened, and by all accounts, even Ms. Bobian's account, she ends up inside the dwelling. She is inside the dwelling. She admits she's the one who pushes Mr. Henderson first in the face. Then she and Ms. Wright are going at it, trying to punch each other. Mr. Henderson's in the middle trying to prevent what's going on. And then Mr. Henderson eventually picks up Ms. Bobian and takes her outside, at which point you can see her coming onto the video, him and her coming onto the video. He gets her onto the hood of the car. The physical nature of this disruption has continued from inside the residence to outside the residence. Ms. Wright at this point has gotten a knife from inside, and as the physical confrontation is still occurring on the hood of the car, Ms. Wright is attempting to apparently stab Ms. Bobian. Ms. Bobian is continuing to act confrontationally and physically, including pulling on Ms. Wright's hair. There's a dispute about who opened the door. To me, that it doesn't matter who opened the door. Scenario might be different if the door had been opened by one of the occupants and one of the occupants had said, "Please come in so we can talk about this." That would not be an unlawful entry, but that's not what happened here. Ms. Bobian clearly came into the house unlawfully. She committed the crime of assault unlawfully or harassment, and assault or attempted assault on Ms. Wright. And so prongs 1 and 2 have been met. Here, force had already been used. And I understand where the people are coming from. in my mind, the test really is as long as the occupant of the dwelling reasonably believes that the intruder might continue to use physical force, the make my day protections apply. This would be a different scenario if the parties had gotten outside, Ms. Bobian separated herself, started to go to her car, was getting in her car, and then Ms. Wright went after her and stabbed her. There it wouldn't be reason. Ms. Wright would not have had a reasonable belief that the intruder would continue to use physical force, and that's because Ms. Bobian is getting in the car. She's clearly leaving. She's no longer a physical threat, but that's not the case here. This was all moved very quickly. The physicality never stopped. There was not a break in events as suggested by Mr. Albright. The testimony clearly was this was just one very quick, always moving physical confrontation that didn't end until after Ms. Wright had, swung the knife. For which she's being charged criminally. And so the court does find that the defense has met their burden of proving the three conditions by a preponderance of the evidence. The court does find that Ms. Wright is immune from criminal prosecution, and therefore the case is dismissed.
Ran out of here before he could change his mind. Oh yeah, no, that's going to be a long and tedious trial.
Well, that's why she was never charged. I mean, even when he testified, he wasn't talking.
Right.